So today is a beautiful late fall, almost winter day. It's, I would say, 55 degrees, maybe 60 out right now. And so what I'm going to do is go up and move a rose that just needs to be moved. Now's the perfect time to do that kind of thing because everything's dormant, and since I know we've got rain in the forecast, I would like to do it while the weather's still fairly nice and before the rain starts again. Oh yeah, also, it's been raining all day today, so the ground is already nice and saturated. So, to me, that's the best time to transplant. That's when I like to do it. Depending on your climate and on your soil and all these different factors, that might not be the best time for you, so kind of maybe experiment and see what works. But I found for my soil type, that's what works for me, so that's what I'm going to do. Alright, I will see you up there. We're wanting to remove the orange fencing because we don't like the way it looks, but we used it because that's what we had on hand. So, before I can do that, I'm needing to move this rose and get it in line with the legs, so that way it doesn't have this little poofy place here and everything will be smooth against it like it is in this area here. We will also be using the black fencing because it will just blend in with the black posts and it'll just look better. For instance, around this little house here, there's black fabric, and even against the green it doesn't stand out. So just to get it to look better and to get everything more in line, that's the project for today. Just move the hole from there to there, and I'm going to use the dirt I dug out of the hole to fill this one back in because it's mixed with compost, a bunch of nutrients. I think I'm going to have to dig that a bit deeper. Okay guys, as you can see, that was a very windy video, so I got the rose in the ground and kind of called it a day after that. When I went back and edited that video, I salvaged all the footage I could from that project. So I just moved, to recap, I just moved the rose so it was more in line with the legs. So next year whenever I recover it with black vinyl netting instead of the orange, I won't have to kind of bring it out around. It'll just be in line and I can wrap it smoothly around the structure. Oh, he's knocked over. Ugh. In my state here in West Virginia, you can go to the bank and clean out foreclosed homes and you get rid of the junk there, and it's a job people get paid for. Well, someone we know was cleaning out a foreclosed home and they had some gardening supply stuff that they were needing to get rid of, and we got it, so I'm coming out here to see what it is. Looks like several bags of the stay green. There's some topsoil and some mulch. I don't know what I will do with this mulch because it says with weed barrier technology, and it says do not use this mulch around food producing trees, nut trees, vegetables, herbs, or other edible food. So I'm going to assume that this right here has some kind of chemical in it. And seeing as how I don't want chemicals on my garden, what I will do is I will see if there's a way that can be composted, or if I will look into what's in it and see if there's a way I can compost it or dispose of it. And if for some reason there isn't, if there's not a safe way to use it, what I will probably do is take it and put it maybe down there on the road bank or somewhere where I'm not ever going to be planting something, or a place where I need to cut out weeds or grass to where basically it can just sit there for the next 20 years and I can forget about it. I don't know. I need to look and see what's in it. So it might just be that I have to take it to the dump or take it or just give it away on Marketplace to someone who doesn't mind using chemicals in their garden, because even though I choose not to use them, I'm not going to shame anyone else who chooses to use them. Everyone has their own unique situations and they deal with it in their own unique ways based on what's best for them. With that being said, I don't know if the mulch is usable for me. Honestly, I kind of really don't need it because I have access to aged wood chips from lumber that's never been treated with anything. Yes, I see you, pretty girl. This is my doggy's girlfriend. She comes and visits them. She's a beautiful girl, though. They are friends, so she does come visit them other times of the year, but I know she comes down here more often whenever she's getting ready to be in heat. As I said before, I've overwintered brassicas, and I kind of want to show you what they look like after they've been hit by cold. This happened to them last time, but they are still alive and you'll be able to see that. And if they follow the same pattern, then as soon as it warms up, these things will start growing and start setting fruit. So I kind of just want to show you, for those out there who are in a climate that gets a little colder in the winter, that you can still grow some things under without cover. I mean, some of these may die. I knew that whenever I planted them. Some things are just hardier than others. But I'll show you what everything's looking like now. And honestly, considering that we've had temperatures in the teens, these look really, really good. But I will say we're getting into the negative digits possibly within the next couple of days once the storm hits. And it could be a different story after that. Though the year I successfully grew them outside, we had temperatures that got down to 0 or below that year too. So it's just an experiment and we will see how these fare. So let me show you what they look like right now. All right. This is these two plants right here. That one and that one are kohlrabies. This right here, let's see if we can find it. I don't see a tag for this. I'm sure it's here, but it's probably frozen into the ground, but it looks like another kohlrabi. This is some broccoli. There's more broccoli, more broccoli. These right here are cabbages. And you can see the outer leaves, they do kind of get wilty, but there is new growth coming from the middle. I just got these started a little too late. That's the reason why they're just now this size. I put them out about a month later than I should have, knowing that there was a good chance that I wouldn't get anything from them until spring, and then there's still a chance that they could die. That right there is a broccoli. See, now this one looks really bad. That one looks really bad. There's a chance it will not come out of it. There's also a chance that once spring hits, those roots are nice and protected and it'll start putting off new green growth. That one got eaten on before this cold spell hit. Let's see, let's go over this way. The stuff on this side, honestly, doesn't look so good. I guess that's what microclimates do. We've still, like those cabbages, that's still going. This cabbage is still alive. That cabbage is tiny, it may or may not grow. That one looks dead. That one's got some growth. And then my onions. Like I said, this is all an experiment. I've successfully grown them this way before. With the exception of the onions, those onions are short day onions, which are grown more south because they are forced to bulb based on how many hours of light there is. For us here, if I would plant them in the spring like we do the other onions, by the time we get them planted out, the days are already long. So the bulbs, since they're short day onions and they need less light to bulb, if I were to plant these in the spring, they wouldn't have enough time to grow the green tops because they would already be in the bulbing phase based on the amount of daylight there was. So I planted them in the fall so they could get some green growth before the day length gets long in the springtime and they start actively bulbing. I just want to see, I keep on getting sent short day onion seeds, and I know in the south they're fall planted, and I know most years our winter here is pretty mild. We get snow, but it's not like usually really, really cold. So I thought I would give it a try to see if that could work for the short day onions here, because they sell them in my Lowe's and they sell them in my Walmart, and I keep getting sent them for seed trades. So what I would like to know is if I'm going to be able to grow them here, and if not, then that's fine. I can pass them on to someone else. I just would like to know whether to keep them or to pass them on, I guess is what I'm getting at. We burn wood to heat in the winter, and I have a wood pile of stuff here that's too big to fit in our wood burning stove that needs to be cut up still. And since it's going to be rain turning to ice and then snow, I am going to cover this pile with a tarp so that if we don't get it cut up before the rain starts, it doesn't freeze to the ground and freeze together to where we can't get it apart. So I'm going to do that real quick. That's not actually a tarp, and here's a little hint or tip. That is an old canopy frame or canopy cover. We had an old canopy where the frame was bent and is no longer usable. So we kept the sidewalls and the top. Sorry, I'm a little winded after that. We kept the sidewalls and the top because they make really nice tarps. This was a 10 by 20. So that's basically the equivalent of a 10 by 20 tarp. The sidewalls are 10 by 10. And we've used them as silage tarps. We use them as regular tarps. We've used them to put down on the bottom of our wagon before we loaded it with compost so it wouldn't fall out, like bulk compost or bulk wood chips or bulk mulch or any of that stuff. If you have an old canopy where the frame is no longer usable, keep those walls and tops if you've got a place to store them and it's not going to contribute to your clutter or junk, because they do work well for They do work well for a multitude of things, and they are waterproof, water resistant, whatever you want to call it. Mostly waterproof unless they've got holes. Mine are old and I've drug them, so they do got a couple little pinholes in it. Okay, y'all. Since we're hanging out, there's something I kind of been wanting to talk to y'all about. I just sort of want to get it off my chest, so to speak. I sometimes feel like a fraud because I am not a prepper. I am not a homesteader, and I know I get lumped into that category a lot because of the things that I do here on my farm. I am a grower. There are things that I do that align with maybe the prepping or the homesteading lifestyle or world. But as you know, well, you may not know. If not, let me explain. I am from North Central West Virginia. Well, at least I currently live here. I am actually from a more southern part of West Virginia, but I now reside in North Central West Virginia, and I have since 2005. So I've been here for quite a while. As you may know, West Virginia and Appalachia in general is a very impoverished, undereducated, underserved, underfunded area of our nation. So a lot of the things that I do that might align with a prepper lifestyle or that might align with a homesteader lifestyle really aren't about that for me. I grew up in the city. I now reside in the country. Even when I lived in the city, people had home gardens. Some people even had backyard chickens. It's literally a way of life here. We don't do it because it's some fad. We don't do it because we're afraid that the world as we know it is going to end. Maybe some of us do. I can't speak for everyone. But the way I grew up, we did this because that's how we have to survive. A backyard garden because sometimes it's just really hard to afford groceries. We, in my own situation, I live in a house that is heated by a wood stove. And some people move to a wood stove because it's a heat source that they're able to harvest for themselves if the grid were to break down. Well, for me, I had to get the wood stove, and not because I was afraid of the grid breaking down, but because sometimes here, whether it's due to high winds or snow load or just some kind of storm, we can sometimes lose power for a week. And so whenever it's the middle of winter and you have no power for a week and you're on well water, so your well's not running, I mean, you kind of have to make adjustments for those things. And it's not about fear or about prepping. It's about just getting through the day. I don't live in fear that the food system's going to break down. It might. I don't really even think about it, quite honestly. Whenever people talk about, the grid breaking down and what if we had no access to electric? Well, I already live that kind of way several times a year. So it was really important to me that I got a wood-burning stove. Not only a wood-burning stove, but I purchased a wood-burning stove that I am also able to cook on. Now, that's been many years ago now. My dog is chewing on a plastic bottle in the background, so if you hear that, I apologize, but I'm not going to take it from him. He's having a good time. For as many people as there are in the world and that decide to live this lifestyle, there are that many reasons for doing so. I love being connected to the earth. There is nothing like the feel of fresh soil in my hands and the smell of the rain in the air for relieving tension and depression. Just being out in the sun, that's going to relieve it. So there are so many reasons to get out in the garden. There are so many reasons to live a more simple lifestyle. I'm not saying anything negative about people who have that slight fear or it just makes them feel more secure to prep. It does make me sometimes feel like I don't fit into this category of homesteader or back to a simple life kind of content creator, because honestly for me, this is a way of life. This has been a way of life here for many generations. This is a way of life that's been passed down. It's a way of life that we live to survive here. Now, not everyone's in the same situation. Maybe more than average, a lot more than average, or, just trying to make it through the day. And so what we do is we grow our own food. Sometimes we raise our own meat. Sometimes we trade with people who raise their own meat. Sometimes we buy stuff really cheap. Sometimes we don't buy stuff cheap at all and we just take guilty pleasure for once because it gets us through the day. Sometimes we buy the paper plates instead because we can't think of washing another dish. I don't have a dishwasher. My water pressure in my kitchen right now will not support a dishwasher, so until I move my kitchen, I can't have a dishwasher. I've been doing dishes by hand forever, and most people just take that for granted. I don't do it because I'm against dishwashers or I want to conserve water or it's just so therapeutic. I do it because I want my dishes clean. There's nothing wrong with people who have that luxury. I really, really can't wait for that day because dishes are my least favorite chore in the world. Well, yeah, probably. Anyways, I went on that little side rant. sometimes it makes me feel like I don't have a community and like I don't fit in or I don't belong, because the things that some of the people that I listen to or that I watch or that I read, they talk about this back to basics lifestyle, and they talk about, they may have come from a city and they're trying to just feed their family in a more pure way, or they're trying to, like I said, a million different reasons for for growing, for farming, for whatever you want to call it. I just know that for a large part of us, especially here in the Appalachian region, it's not just a lifestyle, it's part of our culture, it's part of who we are, it's part of where we came from, it's what we have to do to survive. And I don't understand this thing in myself that makes me feel like I don't belong in this sphere, or that I don't belong in this realm of people with their beautiful kitchens and their perfect homes and the ability to start a project and finish it before the summer ends. Like, that's not realistic for us. I hope I can get there one day. That's ultimately my goal. Isn't it everyone's goal? Isn't it everyone's goal to have as much of what they want in the easiest way possible without compromising who they are or their values? I mean, for me, that's goals. I ultimately wish that it didn't make me feel like I didn't belong, or like that I was a fraud, or like I didn't fit into this neat, perfect little box. And I know that that's a shortcoming within me. I know that has nothing to do with anybody else. I know that it's partially I look around and I can't make the content that's satisfying to watch because I start a project and, next week there's significant change, and then the next week after that it's done. It takes me a while. Like, I have to build my soil, and I can't afford to go buy, compost by the ton. I have to wait and make it myself, and I have to use these more slow processes to build my soil. And it means that as my garden progresses and matures, that the first few years they might be a little more stunted and might not be as beautiful, and they might not be as spectacular, and it really doesn't look like much compared to the person who's able to go buy 10 tons of compost and completely just plant in the perfect soil. I'm not going to have those results. I'm working towards those results. And I want anyone out there to know who's struggling or who's in kind of the same position as me. Just because you don't have the perfect little cottage and the perfect little gingerbread on your house, and just because your garden isn't the most beautiful thing, maybe you're in a 5-gallon bucket, or maybe you've just got tilled earth and you can't afford to do the no-till. Don't let that stop you. Don't feel like you don't belong. And I know that sounds hypocritical coming from someone like me because I struggle with that. Let me make the preface of saying I don't feel isolated or disconnected from growing. I feel so connected with that. That's just part of who I am. I feel isolated and disconnected from the community because my pictures don't look perfect. My hair doesn't look perfect. I'm older than most of the people who probably make content and honestly consume the content. I mean, there's just so many things that make me feel like I don't fit in this realm, in this sphere. But the thing that I know is that if I'm here and I'm having these thoughts, that there are more of you out there. Maybe some of you guys can see yourself in this picture that I'm painting and in this struggle. And maybe that will encourage you to keep going and keep working, because with enough time and enough effort and enough work, you will have that beautiful, awe-inspiring garden one day. It just might take you a little longer to get there. And it's also worth noting that what you put effort in grows. It doesn't matter if it's writing or drawing or planting a seed. Whatever you put your time and effort into is going to grow. It's going to expand. it's going to be enriched. I hope some of you can see yourselves in this and be encouraged not to give up. Realize it's okay to scavenge. It's okay to use secondhand. It's okay for it not to be pretty. It's okay for you to do it just because you want it to be pretty. It's okay to grow just because it's a hobby. It's okay to farm because you like animals. It can be whatever you want it to be. For those of you who have to struggle because you can't afford it this season, so you gotta wait, or you're not able to miraculously manifest that thing into being, or you just don't have the resources, or you don't feel like you could accomplish it, or you don't fit in, just know that that's not what it's about, because ultimately what it's about is growing what you love, putting the time and energy into the things that make you feel good, regardless of the reason. The view is worth the climb, and it's not about looking on high. It's about the trail that got you there. At least for me. I can't tell you what it's about for you. And ultimately, I don't want to, because that's what I'm trying to say, is figure it out for yourself. Okay, guys, I am so sorry if I have been rambling. I thank you for getting to here if you did. I really do appreciate it. I want you to know that if you don't quite feel like you fit into this community for many, many reasons, just know you're not alone out there. I don't fit in that cookie cutter box of what someone from the Appalachian region of the United States who maybe talks like I talk and comes from where I come from. I don't fit in that cookie cutter box of those around here either. I know that we all struggle with not belonging and wanting acceptance and wanting community sometimes, and that's okay too. Don't let it discourage you. Right now, I know a lot of people out there are in the midst of seasonal affective disorder, and that can make it really hard too. I've seen many people putting up videos lately that have been struggling with it right now, and of course, it's, you know, the darkest parts of the year, so. And I know, I've said this before, I know that because I exist in the world, there are other people out there like me, and this is just kind of a shout out to all of you guys saying, you can do this, we got this, don't be discouraged about what you see online, it's not real life, and happy growing. Was that cheesy? That was cheesy. Sorry, guys. So on this first day of winter, as the sun starts to increase its journey across our sky, making our days longer and our nighttime shorter, and we dream of those spring days and the beautiful plants erupting, I just want to wish you guys a happy holiday, and I'm so thankful that you chose to spend this time with me, and I can't wait to get growing with you this next season. All right, guys, see you next time.